Oh, Dad, do you have your glasses on for a reason today?
What glasses?
Listener, you may not be able to see this, but you're wearing like dark shades. And hello, by the way.
Good morning.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You don't know when someone's listening to this.
Well, we're time irrelevant,
We are time irrelevant.
time
No,
time neutral.
time neutral.
So
Yes,
can't talk about current snowstorms, which are not current.
correct.
Can't talk about time of the year because it's non-existent.
Correct.
We're time traveling.
Okay, so here goes my question. Well, first of all, are you wearing your shades for a reason? Because your future's so bright.
Hopefully, yes.
Are those like prescription?
No, I,
Oh, okay.
I don't do that anymore.
So you're just wearing them to wear them?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
perfect.
So, question, if you could time travel, would you go forward? Would you go backward? Or would you not even take the choice?
I don't deal well with hypotheticals. You
That's
can't do any one of those. So what's this? What's fantasy? Fantasy.
great, but like hypothetically, what could you do?
Well, go backward, I think, is too dangerous because things
Really?
are not as good as people remember.
Oh,
And
okay.
the present is a little fakakta.
Yeah.
I would probably jump to the future, maybe 100 years in advance.
Really? What would you hope to see 100 years
Well,
in
while, while I'm
advance?
while I'm time traveling, I keep my eyes closed. I go for sounds first. If it sounded okay, I don't want one eye first. But otherwise, you never know. If it sounds good, we can stay a while. It's a one. So it's closed eyes, one ear, one, and see what it sounds like.
You know what I love most about this podcast? I mean, we
I
get to
have no
meet
clue.
we get to meet some really incredible, cool people, but I like our
In addition,
yeah, in addition to us. But I love our pre-show chatter. I think it's really fun. I've learned so much more about
we
you.
should record this.
We are recording it.
Thanks for taking my
Do
advice.
you know where you are today?
Of course, I'm right here. Can't you see me? This younger generation, man, they're spacey. Woo, baby.
So I did a book tour event yesterday and I went to a yoga studio. It's been really cool. So I launched my book, obviously, in December of last year.
Unfunked.
That's right. Thanks for the plug. And so I do this book tour thing where I will go and stop by any business around the world. All you have to do is pay for my travel, so my flight and hotel if I'm going somewhere else. But I come in for 2 hours and it includes, signing books or doing a little like workshop thing. So yesterday I got to do one locally and it was at a yoga studio. My friends from high school owns a beautiful yoga studio, two of them, and they're amazing. A
Mm.
yoga bar, incredible. And so we were in there, and it was a nice small group of like nine of us. And some of the book tours have been, 25 people. I've got one coming up that's 80 people, one that's coming up that's going to be 120 people. So it's all over the board. But the coolest thing was like those power of those smaller moments. When we're talking about getting unfunked and what it actually means and why it's important. It was just so cool to be in a room. So I knew some of the people I did not know. And what was just really amazing is that we just all from talking for it was maybe like 90 minutes we actually talked yesterday. We just all connected on things we would have never spoken about if I just saw them out somewhere.
Mhm.
We gave ourselves the time and space to connect, and I think that's really cool. And I tell you this story because today we have a guest who I have known for quite some time. I mean, like a year or so, I think. We serve on the same board together. We're in an organization together.
She wasn't in the yoga group, though.
No, 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 no. This is something else. But most up until recently, I did not know her backstory because we had not had the opportunity to talk. So today, I'm excited for you to meet her. Should we just let her in?
No.
I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I'm going to ignore you and just do it.
What else is new?
But I'm really excited for you to hear her story. And so, Joyce, when you're ready, we are ready for you to turn on your camera, turn on your microphone.
Here she comes. Hello,
There you go. You're
Joyce.
muted. We don't want you muted. You got to come off mute. So come off mute.
Unless you know
Sorry,
sign
guys.
language.
Yes.
Good morning.
Oh, better.
Yeah. Joyce, we are recording. We are live. This is my father, Stan.
Joyce, good
Dad,
morning.
meet Joyce.
Pleasure.
So I just got to see Joyce last week as well, too, which was such a pleasure. But I was just telling my dad that, in life, we don't always get to know everybody's story because we don't take the time to do that. And I learned more of yours because through a different event that we did when you spoke about it. And so it's just interesting when we just slow down and connect with people what we can learn. And we're so happy to have you as a guest today. So thank you for being here.
Oh, I am thrilled to be here. It is my joy to share my story and hopefully inspire others to reach for their dreams.
I love it. Well, we start every episode the same way. We have been doing this for, I think you were episode like I don't even know what episode you are.
6,075.
65 maybe or 60, I don't even know. But so we start off this way by asking this question on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your number right now? But let me explain to you so we'll make sure we're speaking the same language. A 10 is that there is not a worry in the world. Nothing is bothering you. Life is perfect. It's amazing. It's incredible, which we've had some 10s. I
And
personally am never a 10.
fractions do count. You can be
Yes.
Oh,
0.75
good.
here,
Yes, they do count.
I have to clarify with you.
I'm glad that you did. And all the way to a one to where you should not be peopling. Sometimes we don't have that choice, but you should not be peopling
You're
because
afraid
you
though,
get
if
paid
someone
for
ever says one, which they have not said, the screen may go entirely blank.
it.
Well, don't worry, I won't
And
be
your
saying
seat may
one.
vibrate.
What is your number
Hold on,
right now?
hold on, I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna guess.
Okay. What is your number right now?
I'd have to say a 7.
Ooh, okay. So this is where we go from here. So we will never be like, why are you a seven? Why are you whatever? But we will ask you
I was
this.
thinking that.
I know. What would it take you to go today from a 7 to 7.25? Just 0.25 higher. What would it take today?
For me to be able to concretely schedule some speaking engagements, that's my focus right now in life. I had a life scare, and that my husband had a serious heart attack where he was operated on and had a open bypass heart surgery. So, thank the Lord he is doing well now. And, it just makes you realize how short life is and
Mm.
how important it is to live each day.
Yeah. And you have been taught that lesson once before, and we'll talk about that. So before we get into all of that and learn where you are today, let's take us back to where you grew up. Like where are you originally? I don't even know. Where are
Wait a
you
minute,
originally from?
how would you get the 7.25?
She said by speaking more. Were you not listening?
Oh, I was napping. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my God. Booking more speaking engagements. And
Oh, yes, then.
we'll talk to our listeners about what you do and what you speak on because I think it's really very important and it's very specific to certain audiences as well too. So we'll get there. But why don't you take us back to where did you grow up? Like where are you originally from? I don't even know that.
I'm originally from Chicago. I was born on the northwest side of the city, and I'm the oldest of six. And, life was not easy. My dad was an alcoholic. It was really challenging. My mother had some mental ill problems. And of course, way back when, we never
Sure.
talked about that. Nobody even knew what that was about. And I was the one that was the cheerleader, was the glue that kept my family together. And I've actually written about my story in my book, um, Unstoppable Women Overcoming Mediocrity. My grandparents were amazing. They were my lifeline because they were the model, the role model that I followed. And my grandfather was one of these, had the sage old wisdom, and he would teach me things while he was teaching me gardening. And my grandmother would come and she would help mom out on Wednesdays because, with 6 kids, you can imagine that it was
Yeah.
really challenging just doing basic household things, laundry, cooking, cleaning.
Was
And we
that
just
your
love
was that your mom's parents or your dad's parents?
my mom's parents.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So grandma was just a sweet, wonderful woman. She was born in Wisconsin near a farm and, just had that wonderful, loving embrace. And we learned, my other sister and I learned how to cook and bake from her. And we just loved it. And that was a survival skill for me because when you're the oldest of six, things fall on your shoulder. And mom wasn't really the best cook. So I learned how to cook, I think, out of self-defense. And then it grew to be a love language. So being able to provide that for the family.
I
And
love
And
I
they
have the
do
joy
say
now.
insanity is hereditary. You get it from your kids.
it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Sorry.
From my sisters, not from me.
Oh, of course,
Yeah, but
not from
gee,
me.
raising six
So
kids is
6 kids is
crazy.
a lot. Yeah. So how many years between you and the youngest?
There's 12 years between myself and the youngest.
Wow, busy bee.
Wow. So 6 kids like under the age of 12 at one point. So, or
Mhm.
like, wow, that is, so I imagine, and then you were saying that your mom and your dad were alcoholics. Your dad was an alcoholic and your mom had
Well,
mental.
Dad, for sure. Unfortunately, he died of cirrhosis at the
Mm.
age of 51. And, that was challenging. But by that time, I don't think I was quite 30 yet. You learn resiliency and you learn self-reliance when you grow up in that kind of a family. And my grandfather was just a wonderful inspiration. And he said, Joyce, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. and you can do anything you put your mind to. So those were long before the vision boards were created. I created posters and put them up in my bedroom, and I read that every day, and those were my affirmations. And I was determined to make a better life for myself. So I did a lot of things like day camp counselor, and I volunteered at the hospital. I did 200 hours of volunteer service over 2 summers as a candy striper and really loved working with people. So I had started going down the path of studying for college for medicine. And that's where I got my accolades, was in school, because mom and dad didn't care. They were embroiled in their own problems. And I looked for the positive. And between the things, the conversations with my grandfather and my grandmother, I decided that I was going to be a successful businesswoman by the time I was 30. Don't ask me how a 12-year-old thinks that, but that was the goal that I put in my mind. And I was able to achieve that in my 30s and, just keep growing from there.
That's amazing. What line of work were your parents in when you were growing up?
My dad was a carpenter, very good at it, and mom was a stay-at-home mom. So, just typical middle America back in the 60s.
Got it. And so would you say that, was there always food on the table? Or I know you were cooking, you said your mom wasn't a good cook, but it kind of, there was, with 6 kids, I would imagine, and an income with a carpenter and a stay-at-home mom, it must have been a struggle as well too, with clothes and food and everything.
It was tight, and that was one of the reasons that I would look for ways to earn some money for myself. So babysitting at, when I was 12 years old and the day camp counselor and just making sure to find positive ways to resolve it. And you become really resourceful when you can learn to stretch the budget. I mean, mom only had money to buy groceries once a week, and after a couple of days, those groceries were gone. And I can remember eating ketchup sandwiches or just saltines because that was all that was available. So you just, you get yourself focused, get involved in sports outside in the neighborhood. We played a lot of basketball and softball outside and,
Yeah.
just kept busy.
And you said it was the northwest side of Chicago. That's where you grew up, you
Yes,
said. And so you lived in Chicago. Did you go to school in Chicago as well too? Where'd
I
you go?
did. I was the oldest. I was privileged to go to Catholic school and then went to the public high school. And it was there that I really desired to become really good so I could get a scholarship to college. And I got a little tiny scholarship, went to the community college, and that was enough to get the basic courses, and then started off at the University of Illinois.
And then what did you get your degree in at UIC?
Well, I didn't actually graduate from there.
Oh,
I My first husband didn't make it in school. In fact, he told me he had a scholarship, which wasn't true. So he had to work and he couldn't keep a good job there. In a university town, there's not really much to do. So we came home and started a family. And I was excited, had this little baby girl. And then, as you've heard, Jamie, the Lord had different idea, and my husband died in a work accident. So it was an opportunity for me to reset my thinking because it would have been extremely easy to fall into depression. And thank goodness for my baby girl because she was the reason to get up every day and to look forward to doing something because I had to provide for her.
yeah. So let's take a step because that's a lot. That's the section I want to go into because I just think it's incredible how you were able to navigate that. So you met your first husband then prior to going to college. Was
Yeah,
it
we
like
met in high school.
okay, in high school? And then you got married at what age then? Because that would have been a young age
I
going on.
think 19,
So you got married at 19 and we're starting college. And then you were pregnant at what age with your daughter?
21.
21. So you're married, 21, you had this baby. And how old was your daughter when your husband passed?
She was 15 months old.
Wow.
So I'm not that I want to like go back and revisit some of this. I know you kind of traveled it, but tell us, so what field was he working in when that happened?
He was working in a warehouse, so he was driving a forklift. And back then, they didn't actually have as many of the safety precautions put in effect.
Mhm.
And his death caused the whole industry to look at putting in some stricter guidelines in terms of managing the forklift. So it was pretty tenuous in terms of dealing with all of the aftermath of that. And I just had to keep my blinders on and stay
Yeah.
focused on what am I going to do to help raise my daughter because I didn't want her to be raised in a really negative environment. I always looked for positive people to surround myself with.
Yeah. Where were you when you found out about the accident?
I was home in our apartment, and it was funny because I was sitting there. My husband had gone off to work, and I remember writing the bills out for that day. He had just gotten paid, and a friend of ours knocked on the door, and he says, "Oh, I have to tell you, Bill died." I'm like, "Oh, come on, don't tell me that," because it was Halloween. And I said, "You're just joking with me." He's like, "No, I wouldn't joke about that, Joyce." And I was like in absolute utter shock, totally numb, and said, "No, this isn't real." And I was in denial, obviously, in the beginning. And we went to our pastor and talked to him and had to tell my mother-in-law, which was the last thing I ever wanted to do. I adored her.
Mm.
And to tell her that her son died was one of the most difficult things for me to do. And then we went to tell my mom, and you make all the funeral arrangements. And I can tell you, I was numb.
And you're
And
21 years old at this time, 21 years old. Wow.
no, I was actually 23.
Okay.
But it was, you just kind of go on autopilot. And because I was used to taking responsibility, so you just figure out what the next steps to do. And thankfully I had, family and friends around that were very supportive, and you just put one foot in front of the other and keep
Mm.
moving.
Wow. And were you living in a house at the time or like an
No, we
apartment?
were living in an apartment. Yeah.
So the company didn't even come by. Like his friend came by and not, I mean, I just think it's like that is wild. That is absolutely wild. And then you have your daughter, 13 months old, you said, right? 13
She
months,
was 15.
15 months old, sorry. I'm just gonna, I'll just
Was there any company compensation for the accident?
We had to take some legal action, and there was compensation for that because it was clearly negligence on the company's behalf. And so that was horrific in and of itself, going and doing
No.
depositions and all of that. It was,
reliving probably the details and I can't, wow. So how did
yes.
you bounce, I don't say bounce back from that, but how long did it take you to, I mean, obviously I know today you're probably still not over that. I can feel the emotion from you when I hear you speak, but how do you get back on your feet with a 15-month-old baby and you've just lost your husband, you're 23 years old. Like, what did you do to get yourself back on your feet?
As I said, I had a lot of wonderful friends, and one friend approached me and said, I don't know if you're interested or not, but we've got a small business that we'd like to introduce you to. And so they introduced me to that business, and it was all people that were looking to make something of themselves.
Multi-level marketing, maybe, or
Mhm.
oh,
Yeah, it was. And it was, for me, absolutely a lifesaver because I was surrounding myself with these positive people.
sure.
We were reading books on leadership. We were supporting one another. I had a mentor who was absolutely most delightful. I just lost her back
So,
in November, and she was like my second mom. She truly was my guiding light. And the people there were just positive and energetic, and they were looking forward to what they wanted to make of their lives. And that was what I wanted. So I followed their footsteps, and, I didn't build a really gigantic business,
Hmm.
but it was enough for me. And it was something to live forward and something to share with my children because again, I wanted them to see positive people. And we were surrounded by millionaires of many kinds and people that would focus on the positive because, there's always negative. It
mhm.
would have been easy, quite frankly, for me to just lie in bed every day and cry myself to sleep and be depressed and mope around, but I didn't want that life. And so I kept thinking about what my grandfather said, you can do anything you want if you put your mind to it. So that's what I did. I made goals, and matter of fact, I have
Joyce, a
somewhere.
fast question. If your husband hadn't passed in that accident, would you even have gotten involved in that business?
That's a great question. It was one of his family friends, so
No.
maybe. Um,
What was it? What
but
was the business?
it was an Amway business,
Okay.
and we did fabulous. I mean, I got involved in the color consultant arena with the skincare and cosmetics and the
The
nutrition.
timing wise was at the beginning, which was great, sure, early on.
Pardon me?
It was early on, so the timing was probably really good.
It really was. It really was. And for me, it was the right solution.
Wow. You were going to say you have something still. Is it like you have one of those?
Well, we created a dream book. So one of the things that they taught us is that you need to focus on the dreams because when you get discouraged, like making sales calls and you get too many no's, the dreams are what's going to keep you moving forward. And often in a couple of my speeches, I actually bring that dream book and I can show you page after page after page of things that I achieved. And my first dream, it was very, very small, but you got to remember coming from a family of six, we didn't have much. So my first dream was a dishwasher because mom didn't believe in that. She's like, I got six of them. I don't need a dishwasher. And Dennis and I had got married by that time, and I really wanted a dishwasher. When you're a busy woman, raising a family and working a business and so on, doing dishes and all that, use
Sure.
the tools to help you. And so I cut out a picture in a magazine and put it on the refrigerator. That was my dream board at the time. And every day, you'd see it. And after a while, you don't really see it. It just kind of goes in your subconscious. We were at a wedding with some friends, and my friend said, Hey, mom said you're looking for a dishwasher. She said, Scott and I are getting married, and we want to merge our household, and we have one that's just a year old. It really
Incredible.
is in great shape. And I said, sold, Anna Marie, I'll buy it. Well, when Dennis went to pick it up, he brought it home. Now, this was sight unseen. He wheels it into the house, and I look at the brand, I look at the color, I look at the picture on the refrigerator, and I get goosebumps all down my back. It
Wow.
was the same exact dishwasher. Now, you can call that woo-woo magic. I don't care what you label it,
Yeah.
but I was like, maybe there's something to this dream board stuff. So then I
Wow.
became very purposeful in the pictures that I cut out. And I promise you, you do those, and now we've got the wonderful sophisticated dream boards online and on your
Sure.
computer and on your phone. I've got one on my phone and I have one on my iPad. But when you look at it every day, it programs your mind. And so you start doing things subconsciously you're not really aware of to help you get closer toward that dream. And we've been wonderful places. We've traveled a lot. One of my dreams was to go to the Bahamas. I really love that, and go scuba diving because my husband's a scuba diver. And that I was taking a course in college because I eventually did get my degree. The course in college would involve the scuba diving, and so you could do the open water dive, the final part of that, either in Lake Michigan, which is always cold, even in the summer.
Or the
Bahamas!
Bahamas.
Oh, right. So I did achieve that goal. And in one of the stories, Jamie's heard this, when I was getting started on the dive, the oxygen tank got stuck.
Oh
And I
boy.
was pulling and pulling, and I couldn't loosen it. And I thought, well, maybe there's a latch or something. And I asked the dive master to help me. And so he pulled, and finally he gets it loose. And it goes airborne and it lands on my big toe, and there's
Oh,
blood gushing everywhere.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, Joyce, you can't dive." And I'm like, "Oh, no, you don't understand. Failure is not an option. I have to graduate this course because my graduation from DePaul University was a few months later." And he's like, "What?" And so I put my foot in a bucket of ice, stopped the bleeding, borrowed an open toe fin, and was able to complete the
Wow.
dive. And I was able to complete the course and then graduate. So when you get determined and you've got these goals and they're hardwired into your mind, you will do whatever it takes to achieve those. And again, I attest that back to my grandfather who put that determination inside
That
of me.
diving story is even more impressive than her forcing those two people to get married to give up one of the dishwashers. It's all connected.
So, but okay, so there's so many things I would ask. So you obviously eventually found love again, right? How soon, like, how did you meet your current husband?
Well, we knew each other. We'd been friends all along,
Okay.
and we had gone to high school together as well. And actually, he was in the wings. He had proposed to me in high school, but I'm like, "Oh, you're too silly. You're a goofball." And so when he got the second chance, he's like, "I am not waiting any longer. I'm going to make sure we get married." And so, a year later, we were married and started a family again. So it was one of those, I think it's a God moment because when you look back, I don't believe that there's anything as an accident. And I believe, your path is there's fate and there's destination, and it's which path you choose to take. So
Maybe he posted your picture on his refrigerator.
probably did. He probably did.
I thought, oh my gosh. So you have your daughter, and then you also have other children as well, too. Is that right? What?
Yes, I have a son.
Okay, got it.
So we have two kids.
And what is the age difference between the two of them? They're how many years apart?
3 years.
They're just 2 years apart, and it's really a perfect because they grew up close together. They're best friends. They didn't even know what half siblings were until they were many years older because we never treated them like that. My first set of in-laws were so wonderful that we all included them always. We never ever separated just because I married another man, and they were thrilled. They were part of the wedding and everything. So my kids were blessed exponentially. They had four sets of grandparents. It's like, whew.
Oh wow,
So
that's amazing. What was so incredible. So you graduated from DePaul and you got your degree in what from DePaul University?
the first degree that my bachelor's was adult learning. It was something that at the time I was working in Fortune 500 company, Fortune Brands, and I had just been promoted to as a trainer. And the gal said, "Okay, you've got your associate's degree, but I need you to have your 4 year degree." And she's like, "I don't care where you go, just go and get the degree." And I was like, "Yay!" So was able to go to the university of my dreams because mom and dad said, "Oh, we can't afford that," and they really snuffed out that idea. And I was just determined. I'm like, nope,
Yeah.
I'm going to go to that school. So,
Mm.
there were a couple of stepping stones to get until I was able to go to DePaul and did whatever I needed to get the credentials so that I could graduate.
How did you get into the Fortune 500 company that you worked for? How did that transition go from doing the Amway to that?
Well, when my second husband Dennis was he's you've met him he I used to describe him as running around with his hair on fire. He was the adrenaline junkie, and we were at a ski weekend for our sons. They have the Martin Luther King holiday in January, so we run a ski weekend, and the guys were doing a amateur NASCAR race, and they had gone down once, and they wanted to get a second trial. And I'm like, no, let's wait. And then Dennis is like, no, 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 one more time and then we'll take a break. Well, Dennis had a life-threatening ski accident where he had almost lost his leg, died on the table once, and they brought him back, and he had
At this trip,
almost
because he went again. He was like, I'm going to go one more time, and that was the accident.
yeah. So the ski overflew him, and it shattered the left leg. And so they tried to put it back together. They wanted to amputate. And I'm like, oh, no, no, that's not an acceptable solution. And we got a second opinion and a different doctor. And they were able to put in a Lizaroff. And if you've seen the halos,
Mhm.
it's the same type of
Yeah.
concept. So there were four rings on his leg, and they adhere them together with a stainless steel wire. And then you would turn it. And, it was originally designed for people that had been born with one leg shorter than the other.
Mhm.
So they were able to get everything all squared away. So Dennis had just gotten home from the hospital. We were at our wits' end. There was zero money coming in because at that time he was the breadwinner. And a friend of mine from church says, "Hey, Joyce, I don't know if you're interested, but Ron's got a position open. Do you want it?" I'm like, yes. And I took that position. And I was just thankful for anything, and I was a supervisor in accounting. And I was great with the people, but I didn't really enjoy working with numbers. I'm a people person, but you do for love what you'd never do for money. And well, I take that back. I did do for money because
Yeah.
I needed to earn money. And after 2 years, my kids are like, "Mom, you're grumpy all the time." Now, back back up a few steps. I worked really hard to develop a strong, close, loving relationship with my children. We had a great relationship. I was there for all their sporting games and school functions, and I love, love, love them dearly. It was a total opposite from what I grew up in. So when I had to go to work, you do what you have to do, and I became this grouchy person. And they're like, "We don't like you anymore. You're no fun." And that was a wake-up call for me. And I realized, you know what? I need to make a change in my life. So I went to the vice president of HR and I said, "Hey, do you have any open positions?" And she's like, "Well, by the way, we do for a trainer." And I'm like, "I'll take it." Because you remember back in the Amway days, we did leadership development courses. I did training in that. So for me, that was an easy, no-brainer decision. And so that's how I got into the Fortune 500 company. And we built a whole learning and development department from scratch. I worked with this VP who was incredible, and she was my mentor for my whole career. And I just absolutely adored working with them. And when you're in a position or a job where you feel you're using your strengths, you just flourish. And it doesn't matter how many hours you worked. I mean, we were working 10, 12 hours a day, but I loved it. And I wasn't grouchy anymore because I was doing what I really was destined to do.
That's so amazing. I love that. So you did that for how long?
Well, I was in that company for 6 years total. And then there was no way for me to go up in that particular department. And interestingly enough, my brother said, Hey, I don't know if you're interested, but
Excuse me.
Bless you.
bless you.
Thank you.
I've got a position open. They're looking for a training director in my company. Are you interested? I'm like, yes. So he threw my resume and my hat in the ring, and I was able to apply for that job, and I actually got it. And I was thrilled to pieces. Now, it was a different organization, it was an insurance company, but I was confident that I could make a difference. And we were doing some really good jobs there. And I stayed there for 2 years. They went through some transitions, a management change, and when they bring in new
Oh,
CEO and all of that, a
get
lot
rid
of
of all
times
those
they'll,
people. I want new people to get on.
Yeah, they bring their own
yeah,
people.
they wanted to do the right sizing, and so they did. They got rid of a lot of people because they had a different vision. And so then from there, I went to electronics distribution firm and worked on their development, their leadership development. And little did I know that at that time they were going through transitions too. Their headquarters was in London, England, and they didn't have an executive vice president of HR, and so they were trying to find the right person. Anyway, long story short, that didn't pan out because when they brought in all the new people, again, I was drifted out. So I thought, you know what, I need to do something different, and I found a position in a local bank. And I was thrilled to pieces because they were looking to grow. They were expanding all of their different branches. They were acquiring smaller companies. And we took and built the training department from just a couple of people to a full menu of courses. And I'm happy to say one of the gentlemen that I hired is now vice president. He's succeeded me
Wow.
and he's doing a fabulous job. He's been there, I want to say 18 years. So I feel like I really positioned them to grow and they've just continued to grow and expand in Central Illinois.
That's incredible. Wow. I mean, like, you have certainly like gotten back up, got back knocked down, got knocked down again.
Lost the
Like that should
three.
be your theme song. I get knocked down, but I get up again. I mean, like that should literally be your theme song. And so Dennis eventually healed from that and then was everything was okay and got back to work. And then you at some point say, all right, the cold, we're done with Chicago, we're out of here, we're going to Florida. Or like how did that come up? Like where what did that look like?
Well, that was back, in the middle of COVID. It was really brutal in Chicago. The cold is just, I had pneumonia in the 90s. And so anytime afterwards I would get a cold, it would go into severe bronchitis. And I'm like, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. And, being in Illinois, we were pretty much told we had to stay in our homes during COVID. And after 2 years of that, and you know me, Jamie, I'm a people person. So that's like torture to make me stay in my home. I take the dog for a walk just so I could talk to the neighbors because, you had to be 6 feet away.
Yeah.
And I had a friend that was visiting her daughter down here in Florida, in Cocoa Beach. And she says, Oh, it's not like that down in Florida. I'm like, Really? And we were looking at retiring or at least moving out of Illinois. And we had checked out a few states. We had seen San Antonio, Texas. One of our pastor friends had moved down there. It was beautiful, but it wasn't the right fit for us. We looked at North Carolina, we looked at South Carolina, and nothing just really fit. And then we were down on vacation and we went to Florida. My brother and sister-in-law lived down there, and we were picking up Dennis's great niece. And we're driving through and we see a sign for the villages. And we're like, oh, we should check that out. And the funny thing is, we'd vacation a lot in Florida. I always said, oh, I love coming to visit, but I could never live here.
Yeah.
Silly me. Well, we
Never
came
say
down.
never. Never
I
say
know, I know.
never.
I've learned that. I've learned that the hard way. Well, we came down in May of 22. We had put our house on the market and we finally sold it. And now we had a sense of urgency that we had to move. And I didn't want to stay anywhere up north. So when I was down in Orlando for a conference, I was part of the Association for Talent Development. And I was working in the conference, and Dennis and I had boundaries from Ocala to Newport Richey to Orlando. And so we looked in that area. We had selected some real estate we wanted to look at. And it was his assignment to go nail it down. And so he did. We found a couple of places, we toured them, and we came to where we're at now and just love, love, love it. I look at the weather now and my kids are like, Mom, can you come up and watch the kids? I'm like, no, 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 not now.
Are
Sooner
both
or
of your
later,
kids,
everybody
are
comes
both of
down
your
here.
kids still in Chicago?
Yeah, our daughter, both our kids are in Chicago. Our daughter's in a suburb of Chicago, and our son is about 20 minutes from Wisconsin border. So they're up north, and they're resilient. They're born and raised up there, so they manage. My daughter's a teacher, and so she says, "Yeah, we have Zoom training right now." She says, "We can't. The schools are closed, obviously."
Yeah, because the storm. And then you are a grandmother now, so you get to be, and how many grandchildren do you have?
I have three grandkids, and they are the light of my life. And I have the joy of passing down and teaching to them some of the things that I learned and things that my grandmother did for me. And they're just so excited to learn. Kids are like sponges. They just want to absorb all of it. And we just found out they're coming to visit soon. And they're like, Grandma, can we do this and this and this and this? I'm like, absolutely. So
How old are
it's
they? How old are your grandkids?
they're 10, 8, and soon to be 5.
Oh, such fun ages too, because they can do more things. They're like a little bit independent, but still like want you there. Oh, that's so wonderful. I love that. So you've made it to Florida and that was but you're not retired. Like you have not retired. You're still working. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
So today, when we first moved here, we did a lot of stuff on improving our home, and we still have things to do. But I'm like, okay, I'm bored with that. I need to go start building the speaking business. So I've started to go to different chambers, and I've done speaking at different chambers, and I've gotten to know some people locally. But I really want to reach out to at least the mid-size and larger businesses. I thought I could work with the smaller businesses, but I'm so used to working with the
Higher level.
large organizations and putting together. I mean, I've created training departments from scratch. So I want to help companies that are anxious to do that, that are willing to invest in their leaders. So one of the things I've done is I'm leading a Toastmasters group in our local area as well as attending another. So of course, a great opportunity to sharpen and test out your speaking skills or to test out material that you want to deliver. And then I also do some volunteer work for Powerhouse for Youth because our youth of America is very different from when you and I grew up. They're connected to their phones, or they're attached at the wrist. Their people skills really need to be working. they are they're really afraid of social interaction. It's easy to be social on here. However, face to face, many of them really struggle. And in fact, I've worked with the local college, and the professor there said, Joyce, she's like, we were doing an open house last year, and she's like, they wouldn't even look at me in the eye. So there's a huge need for us to really work with these youth, raise the bar, teach them these skills, because that's our future. If
Mhm.
we don't invest in our children,
Yeah.
think about the kind of country we're going to
Yeah.
leave to them. And we want them to inherit a good country, but also give them and equip them with the right skills. Because unfortunately, the school systems today, they're all about butts and seats and how much money can we get. The students can graduate and they don't really have the life skills. They're not equipped doing something. They don't even know how to write a check or why there's interest on a credit card, how to balance a checkbook. I mean, these are just basic everyday skills. How to fill out an application is just really frightening. So there's interviewing skills. I teach the students
Where do you teach
about
this? Where do you teach this at?
Well, we started with three local high schools. So Leesburg High School, the Ali Academy, and South Lake High School. So those are the three. And there's been such an overwhelming response that high school principals are speaking to others and they're learning about it. So we've added three new high schools, and now the middle schools are interested. And we're starting a curriculum. We're writing curriculum, which of course is near and dear to my heart because that's part of what I've done in my professional career, and it's making a difference. That's part of my legacy. And I've thought long and hard, what do I want to do? I don't want to just sit here and play games and go on cruises every other week. I want to leave a legacy.
Stop it! Stop it!
Well, I
He's
love
older
going
than
on
you.
cruises. I love on cruise. I love, yeah, we've got friends in our community that go, I'm not kidding, at least 4 or 5 times a year. That's a lot. And if you've got the wherewithal to do that, go for it. But it doesn't fulfill me.
Yeah.
I mean, we like to go at least once a year, and we're going to do that. But I really am passionate about helping to develop others. And so attending the CEO peer networking group the other day was just, I felt like I'm back with my people again. And
Yeah.
so
Do you
that's what we're
realize
doing.
you could probably cruise for free if you became a speaker on the cruise ships and speak only twice a week?
Okay, well then, you'll have to connect me with those people that I can speak to.
I'm
I'm
not a
happy.
facilitator. I'm a broadcaster.
Well, so you're doing that. So you're doing that work in the high schools through what organization? What organization do you do that with?
It's called Powerhouse. It was developed by a gentleman, Scott Chevalier, who started that program in Nashville, and it grew so beautifully. And so they moved down to Florida, I guess, 8, 10 years ago. He's working with the state representatives. He's gone 4 times to this appropriations committee, but all like the Boys and Girls Clubs of America will get the funding. And so we're been building up not only the recognition, but awareness of what we do as an organization. And, it's still at a grassroots level, but it's making an impact, a positive impact. We had a young gal that was really just kind of drifting through life, had a poor family background, and she got excited because we put into them the the thoughts that you can have goals, that you can overcome procrastination, that you can make a difference in your own life. And when I do the disc assessment, they find out about their personalities. They find out what they're good at. So what we do is we help them. We have a career panel, which I'm going to be on this Wednesday, and there's a variety of people from Disney to firefighters to policemen to welders. I mean, just soup to nuts, so that these young adults can see there's something out there that you can do, and look at what you can do, not like what you can't do. And we give them that inspiration and hope. And so this one young lady built her own business. She wanted to be owning a salon. So she's starting out with nails, and she's going to Lake Tech, and she's learning all that she can as a beautician and going through all those things. And she's making a life for herself. Another young man is doing car detailing, and he has a mentor that's helped him launch his own car detailing business. Now, these don't seem like really big deals, but to those students who go home to sometimes houses that don't have electricity and they don't even know where they're going to get their next meal from, these young people are starting to become self-sufficient, and it's giving them hope so that they can build a life for them. And we'll bring in speakers. There's one young man from Central America who he was from a very poor family. They had a dirt floor, and he's like, I am definitely going to make a difference in my life. He got inspired by the Nike "Just Do It" motto,
Mm.
and he's built himself now to a multimillionaire, and it's just been one thing after another. And those are the individuals we expose these young people to give them the inspiration that they too can achieve their dreams. It's not easy, and we don't pretend that it's easy, or we don't paint them the rosy picture. However, if you're willing to put in the work, you can achieve some of your dreams.
What an, first of all, who better to talk about that than you, who has been through your own personal struggles and challenges at that young age as well, too. How incredible. So is this through, it says Powerhouse, and is this through like you go into the high schools and do like a assembly? Is it an ongoing workshop? What does it look like?
Well, currently we're working with the at-risk students. And one of the goals that our director has is that he wants to do an assembly. He used to do those in Nashville and have many thousands of students attend. He's partnered up with one of the state representatives. We had a fundraiser in October where we had a band and, raise money, and it was really fun. And we want to make this available so that they can do an assembly at a high school so that the whole student body can attend. The program that we're working on and building the curriculum is going to be for other students, not just the at-risk students, because I really think that's where we can make a bigger difference. Not that we want to forget the other students, but make this available to more people
Sure.
that have a good, healthy attitude, help them grow. Because when you look at the graduation rate of a lot of the Florida high schools, it's really poor. I mean, they've worked really hard the last 5 years to increase them, but we really want to make a difference and inspire these kids that they can do jobs. I mean, they get discouraged after one interview and they quit. And we're like, no, you have to do it over and over and over again and have that persistence.
Yeah. Wow, I had no idea that's what you were doing. That is like I learn something new every day. That is amazing. I love that. I mean, you are just such a powerhouse of a human. Like I'm going to take that from the word, right? Because of what you've been through. And I know recently Dennis, went through the surgery as you mentioned in the very beginning of the call. I just want to touch on that real fast. So he just called you and said, "Come and get me," or like what had happened? Like how did you know that's what's going on?
Well, we were actually sleeping. We had done some work around the house. He was working in the yard, getting it ready for fall. And he was having a real hard time. He's just really tired the last 2 days. And he'd come home and he'd take a nap. Now, my husband never takes a nap. He's always, the Energizer bunny. And I kept watching and I'm like, hmm. And that night we went to bed and 12:30 at night, he wakes up and he can't breathe.
Mm.
Well, I know what that feels like having pneumonia. And so I called 911 and they came and put him on oxygen. They couldn't determine what the problem was. So they took him to the hospital and they ran all the tests and the enzymes were very elevated for the heart. So they knew something was what, but they couldn't figure out what. And they did some more tests, found out the heart was not damaged, thankfully. And then when they did the CAT scan and they discovered that he had blocked arteries, he had one that was 100% blocked, one that was 95% blocked, and the other was 90% blocked. So they're just amazed that he didn't stroke out. But like I said, the good Lord's not done with him yet. So thankfully, we had a surgeon that was amazing. They did a double bypass, and it's been 3 months. He's done his own physical therapy in terms of walking and going now to the gym. And they're like, "You're good, man. We don't even need to have you come here to physical therapy." So between, his determination and me taking care of him and giving him all the supplements that, because I told you we sell the Neutralite, that all that whole combination, that whole picture makes a big difference. So.
Woo.
Wow. Wow. I mean, amazing. And is he still working as well too, or no?
He can't do the kind of work he did. He's been in his own business for 40 years and he was in the printing industry. And he worked with these big machines and he'd have to move big equipment or get underneath. And that's not something he can do anymore. So he's looking at, totally shutting it down. And I'm hoping to get him to work with me 100% because, it's more fun when you're working with your spouse. But,
I don't know about that. I'm just
In
kidding.
some cases,
Some cases, yes. My spouse and I, we cannot work together, but go ahead.
this is not your podcast.
He's an attorney, so he sees black and white and I see rainbow. So he is my proofreader. He will do all that stuff for me, but like doing the work that I do, he's a litigator. I don't argue with people. So he like literally does that professionally. So that's why we can't work together. But anyways, go ahead.
But you know what? You know your strengths. And, Dennis and I have our moments as well. I really love that he's got a lot of great technical background and he really enjoys doing that. And that's an area in which we've worked well together. When we were younger in the Amway business, we would do the AV pieces in the on the weekends when we would have retreats. And we would say, this is long before, the sophisticated videos. We would take snapshots and we would have 3 image blenders and we'd make slideshows and we'd put it to music and that was really fun. That was a great creative outlet for us. And so now, we're building up our technology skills to do things more in the 21st century.
I love it. So we started off this conversation talking about that you would go up 0.25 if you book more speaking engagements. And this podcast is not only about learning someone's story, but also helping them, build the story they want for themselves. So I'd love for you to share with us, what does that mean? Like, who do you want to speak to? Who is your audience? Like, what do you speak about? Share with our listeners what that looks like, because this airs all over the world and anyone could hear what you have to say. I think obviously you have the street cred when it comes to, just inspiration and challenge and resilience. That's there. But tell us a little bit more about what you speak about and who your ideal audiences would be.
My ideal audience is a mid to large size organization. I'm going to be working with associations because I was president of the Chicago chapter of the Association for Talent Development, and I know how those organizations work. My my areas of expertise are leadership development. That's where my focus is, and I'm really focusing on employee retention, attracting great people, and keeping the best leaders. And there's so many different certifications I have to help build leaders. One of the projects I worked on was with Abbott Labs when they spun off of AbbVie. I mean, let me switch that around. AbbVie spun off of Abbott Labs, and AbbVie was a brand new company when I went working consulting with them. And we put a 12-month program together to teach them and elevate their leadership skills. And we used a variety of tools. And it was so rewarding to see at the end of the 12 months how these leaders had grown. And they were self-confident and really stretched in terms of facing some of their own fears and overcoming them. And we all know AbbVie now. It's a very successful organization. Taking what I have been through, because in years past, I never really wanted to talk about my personal story. I wanted to keep it private. And then people said, Joyce, you need to tell your story. There's people that need to hear it. And I'm like, okay. Because as you could imagine, going over some of the stuff is painful, but I've learned to put up the shield so I don't like break down and sob on stage because that wouldn't be pretty. But telling them and giving them hope that it doesn't matter what you've been through, you can overcome that. And so turning setbacks into stepping stones is one of them. The secrets to engaging people and attracting the best and keeping them. And then color me powerful, professional presence. That's my third speech. And those are things that I've done in my life. I mentioned briefly the color analysis, and I loved it, but I didn't want to open a brick and mortar store. So I would work out of people's homes. And then I had to change things up when Dennis had his accident. So it's like taking all of that knowledge. I mean, I would love to work with speakers, professional and executives to teach them how do you present yourself well. And it's more than just speaking well, it's the dress and your confidence and your positioning. So those are the things that I'm talking about. And of course, there's plenty of programs. I've created an I CAN program, and it's an acronym that is igniting your team, captivating them so that you really get them in their best interest, activating your employees so that they're excited, that they want to give their all, and navigating performance. So as a leader, you're coaching them and you're leading them through so that they can be the best performer. And I use examples from my own leadership in terms of when I had my teams. So that's the leadership one. And then the I can achieve goals. That is something that I feel very strongly because I've achieved some almost insurmountable goals throughout my life. And I feel like I can speak to that really well and make it easy and
Cred.
fun.
Yeah, you've got the street cred for sure. Curious, what would you say are the biggest mistakes that leaders are making today?
Not engaging with their employees. Employees need to know that their leader cares about them and
Mhm.
that they're invested in their success.
Yeah.
There's a lot of leaders that just say, nope, this is what you have to do. They give them the assignments and they walk off and they leave the employees failing. One of the things I did always was have one-on-one conversations once a month, and I stood for their success. My employees, if I had to reschedule, they would be pulling out the calendar. Okay, Joyce, when can we reschedule? Because it was so important. We would talk about their goals and how they could achieve them. And there's stories that I include in my training that show just exactly how I've done that. And they really, I mean, all of the people that have worked for me, they've grown and they've thrived because if you focus on what they do right, and I like to use the phrase catching them doing successful things. And when you do that,
Things right rather
they,
than less things wrong. Yeah, that's what I say.
there's so many managers that only give you attention when you make a mistake.
Yeah.
And that demotivates people.
Hmm.
Little things like writing a note and giving it to them. I can tell you, I would see the notes that I wrote, and it wasn't only people in my department, it would be people that perhaps maybe they helped me with setting up a classroom or the IT people. You always got to be good friends with the IT people because they can make or break a
Yes.
program.
Yes.
And I would see them, they would have the notes that I would send them posted on their bulletin boards. So those little things people don't think make a difference, but they do. And I still make handwritten notes and send them to folks,
You
thanking them.
can't see, but I think handwritten notes are super powerful. Right behind my monitor is a huge bulletin board from all the notes I've ever received. And I just leave them there. And it's not only that I see that, but my daughter sees that when she comes to my office. It's like there's power to that. Well, Joyce, I had no idea half the stuff that I learned today. I'm so glad that we had a chance to connect. Thank you for being our guest. I think your story is just fascinating. And now your next chapter is getting ready to unfold. So it's just
And I
amazing.
almost for a moment thought I might unretire. What do you call that? Re-retire? Unretire? Ah,
I don't
forget
know.
about
I
it.
like
It's a passing thought. Don't worry about it.
Well, it has been a delight. Thank you so much, you two. I am honored that you invited me to be your guest. And I'm just thrilled that you're doing this program and just shining a light on so many people. So
Yeah,
you're very special.
thank you. It's so, one of the things that I truly believe is that the better that we all get to know each other's story, the
Mhm.
even better that, we can feel connected because we're a lot more alike than we are different.
That's true.
So I just, I think people might look at you and not even know, well, I know this, like they don't know half of the things that you've been through. And, there's speakers that are out there that are speaking about different things, but you are obviously, you lived what you speak about. And I just think it's incredible. And so I'm happy to be connected with you. I'm happy to call you friend. I just think that you're an amazing human, and now the rest of the world knows too. I mean, a lot of people already probably knew, but now the rest of the world, yeah, will know through. Well, whoever listens. I mean, I don't know how many
I
listen.
love the smiling Florida sunshine in her face.
Yes, and she's always wearing bright colors. Like we went to the speaking engagement. We were both wearing bright pink, and she's always just like speaking about knowing colors, so people can come out and reach out to you for a color consultation, right? Too. Yeah. So you're amazing, Joyce. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being part of our story.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
I will see you this week. I'll see you on Tuesday. Online, but I'll see you. All right. Thanks, Joyce.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Wow. I mean,
I
right?
feel such an underachiever. My God.
I mean, I knew some of her story, but I didn't know all of it. And like that is just
The fight against the social media with the phone with the kids. You're fighting a big dopamine high. It's a tough battle to win.
right. But I think that we are not bringing enough. Like I spoke in my daughter's school recently, and it was really telling to some of these teachers. I asked the number thing, and some of these kids wrote a one that you would not. And I asked the kids,
Even how they felt.
yes. And I asked the kids, look at your friend's number. Are you surprised by that? These kids get it. They're like, yeah, I didn't think you'd be a one. Why are you a one? Like they were asking why I didn't do the 0.25
Sure.
thing because I didn't want to like go
Sure.
too heavy, but they didn't realize
What was the
that
highest number you got from the kids?
15.
On a scale of 1 to 10?
Yes, but there was also negative numbers. Yes, but there was also negative numbers. Yes, -0, which is not a number, but there was negative numbers. And one of the little kids said to me, what do you do if you're a -0? And I said, well, let's talk about that. He goes, who do you tell? And I said, well, who is in your life that's a trusted adult that you could talk to? And I didn't have time to really speak to him there, but like, what a great way for,
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
and so Joyce, thank you for what you're doing. Listener, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and we'll see you next time.
And next time, marry a younger man. They're healthier.
She married him when he was like 19.
Well, forget what I said.
And you never know. The accidents, you don't know what could happen. So we will talk to you all next time.
Until next time,
That's their story.
let's do some time traveling. Ooh. Hey, thank you for tuning into today's What's Your Story podcast.
To learn more or share your story, go to jamiemarco.com.
That's www.jaimemarco.com. And we will see you next time.